I am gassed. I got the 30-pound vest on today, doing the hills again. I'm just trying to get warmed up. But if you head over to my website, my name, malcolmkingley.com, you can get the new book I put out. It's an allegorical story called The Heart is Not a Pump, It's an Idea. And it lays out how you look through the discord and the errors in your life that seem to be troubling you, like money problems, relationship problems, health challenges. And you can cite the allness of God through it. And it really is very subtle in how it shows you how to do it. But the fine tuning of it is so critical. I noticed that when you really dial it in, you can really heal and you can really change things pretty quick. Oftentimes, like on the spot, it's pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, I just literally woke up a little while ago and I don't know why it makes such a big difference going from 20 pounds to 30 pounds, but it just feels heavy on me. But anyway, one thing I learned about exercise that you obviously know if you work out is it's not just for your physical body. It's really a mental phenomenon. And I've known, looking back through decades of my life, that no matter what I was going through, even Lyme disease when I was bedridden, exercise was the thing that allowed me to test the barrier of what I was capable of doing. I remember back in the day when the Lyme disease hit and I couldn't really walk around the block, I went from being literally in elite athlete level shape to losing 50 pounds, mostly all my muscle, and then not being able to walk around the block. But then I would try to get up every day and I would just do what I could. And so from those very humble beginnings, after years, went back to training like a pro athlete again, and even better training than before. I think that's the power that we have inside of us if we just persist. And so there's this little note I used to hang on to. This will apply to you. Whatever you're going through in your life, take this and apply it to your life. So during those dark times when I had that Lyme disease and I used to go for my walks, I'd read this note. I don't know who the author was. I'm sure AI could find him now, but I had it on me every day and I'd pull it out when it would get really hard and it would say, if you persist as others have persisted, you will succeed as others have succeeded. You will see the falling away of a fear or a compulsion. It will fall away like an arrow in the midst of flight, because in your new consciousness, you no longer give it the wings to fly. That was so cool because I didn't really know how deep that was during the suffering time. But when I came out the other side, I realized the truth is, it says, the Bible says, what we fear comes upon us. And it's not necessarily what we consciously fear. We're like radio antennas picking up these signals and minds mingle. And so what happens is somewhere along the way, a signal comes up and it bumps up against us. And if it finds a place to call home, it takes up residence immediately. That's what it means. So that fear is how it finds its way home. So in essence, you could be, it's like when people yawn and then the whole room starts yawning. That's how minds mingle. They just kind of transfer through. So in essence, you could be, doing fine one day and then, come down with some crazy stuff that you never even heard of. And you could be like, well, I didn't fear that. There's no way. How could I get something? I never even thought about it. That's not that you thought about it. You didn't take conscious thought about it. It's that the mind of this world found a fear It found a vulnerability. It's like a security breach, an exploit. It's like they found a vulnerability in your code. That's what it is. So if you think of this all like software, the Matrix finds a vulnerability in your software code. And what it does from there is it inserts the program. And the program, if we don't reject it right away, with an immediate denial and then a complete affirmation of the opposite truth, it begins to take root. And by the time it's in the door, it's like a home intruder that's busted into your house. So by the time they're already in your house, it's a lot harder to get them out than it would be while they're still standing at the front door. And that's really how these things happen. And it's not just your body. These things happen in your dating life, and it happens in your money. And especially nowadays, man, think about the money situation. Everything you hear, everything you see is just how bad it is. It's so bad. It's so bad. Well, the people in the stock market, they're probably rejoicing, and the people that are sitting on multiple properties, as long as obviously they're being serviced properly, but they have their net worth and their equities are going through the roof. But that's really the minority of people. The majority of people are living paycheck to paycheck. And I think we'll talk about that today, because that was never God's plan. God's plan was never for you to have to try to do this on your own and to go out and, get for yourself, and to be, having to defend yourself against all the other mercenaries in the commerce game. That's not God's will. God provides. God gives daily, rich substance, thoughts, ideas, the love. God is love, and that love is pouring out blessings. Like water over Niagara, just pouring. And it's easy to say, well, great, God's pouring, but how come I'm not getting? Well, now we have to look at, what does it take to be a master receiver? So a receiver is something that is tuned in, right? Think of the radio dial again. What station are you tuned into? Are you tuned into, the world signal, where, every other minute there's another threat? I mean, oh my God, how much can your nervous system take? It's like you can't even scan social media without having a survival threat every, 30 seconds or less. And it really is that bad. No, it really is. I'm not even making that up, and it's true. And then if you become hypersensitized to it, which means, you're so reactive to it, and you've conditioned those dendrites in your brain and all these other things to, run those neural pathways. Every landmine you step on just goes off again and again and again, and all of a sudden you're just in this place where it seems absolutely hopeless and like there's no way out. But right in the middle of all that, the truth is you are actually never there, and you're actually not subject to any of that. I know that sounds ludicrous, because it feels like you are, and it looks like you are, sounds like you are, and your historical record proves that that's true. But what is that record? Is that the record of the real you, or is that the record of the dust creature that walks the earth? And then you have to look at yourself and say, well, am I the dust creature that walks the earth? Romans 8. For the law of the Spirit sets me free from the law of sin and death. So that dust creature of the earth is the law of sin and death. And law implies power. It implies rule and established order. But it also says the law of the Spirit sets me free. So there's a law that sets you free. There's a law there. I guess you want to know how to appeal to that law and how to use that law. And it's really amazing when you think about how you do it. Is you do it in your thought. You turn away from the material problem. You turn away from the manifest condition. And then your logical mind, the human mind will say, that's completely unreasonable. If I don't do something about this problem right now, it's going to get worse, and it starts catastrophizing. But see, then the grid, the gatekeeper, the architect, the energy matrix, it senses, it literally senses what you're doing. It looks at what you're looking for on the internet, and it gives you more of it. And it doesn't stop there. It has to kick sand in your face then. So then what it does is, let's say, you're not making it, you're not making it through the month. You're having to use your debts, your credit cards, and all these things. So you're online searching, and you're searching for extra ways to make money, and you're searching for, all kinds of things, right? And there's nothing wrong in doing that. I'm not telling you to stick your head under the pillows and just hide. But what happens is the algorithm itself is going to feed you more of that fear because it wants you to keep looking at the algorithm. It's creating watch time out of you. It's monetizing. Your attention is the commodity that it survives on. It has to feed off the lifeblood of your attention. And therein is where we have to look, is our attention, and look at the word, tension. Just like musical instruments. You put a bunch of tension on your strings, and now it's playing your strings because you put the tension on it, because you put your attention on the problem, activated through the faculty of fear, which creates the behavior of seeking for your own refuge and safety through your own means. And that's completely understandable. What living organism doesn't want to survive? Obviously. But there's a better way. There's a better way, and the Bible makes it clear. And one of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 91:14. This is the answer, is how do you appeal to the law of the Spirit that sets you free from the law of sin and death? And Psalm 91:14 says, because he has set his love upon me, therefore I shall deliver him, shall set him on high and exalt him, right? So, there it is. So put your name in there. So the scripture is really powerful when you put your name in there. So here's how we do this. Repeat after me. Because, what's your name? Say it. Has set his love upon me, which is God. Therefore, I shall deliver, what's your name? Boom. I shall exalt, what's your name? Bam. And set, what's your name? On high. And that's literally God saying it to you. And literally God showing you the law in operation and showing you how to appeal to it. So here's the deal before I let you go. Because we're not dealing with theory here. We're dealing with law. You want law. You want something that has order, power, principle. It doesn't fail. It's eternal. Here's how it works. Love, okay? Love is actually God. And so, what did God do in the Bible? What are the only thing God ever did in the Bible was speak, right? So keep that in mind. And what are the only two divine qualities about you? Your thought life and your spoken word. Everything else is dust. Literally, it's just decaying matter. But your thought life and your spoken word are your divine qualities. So because what's your name again? Has set his spoken word and thought on me, which is the principle of good. Therefore, I shall deliver, what's your name? And set, what's your name? On high. There it is. Okay. Now, so to set your love is your affection, your attention. What do you do when you love something? You give it your attention. You spend time with it. Right? So instead of spending your time with evil and how to fix a human life, which is just trying to improve one problem for another, you look to a divine life. You look to a divine principle. So I'll read it to you in the way that I understand it, and that I used it in my healing demonstration that I just did in a very, very, very tough spot. And it doesn't matter what the human trouble is. That's the beauty of it. With God, all things are possible. And God is sufficient to meet every need. That's love. That's his love. So here it goes. Because Malcolm has looked to me, has spoken what I said, and has thought the thoughts I think towards him, therefore, I shall deliver Malcolm and set Malcolm on high. And then you could say, well, I don't really know what God is. Well, that's simple. In the Bible, I think it's in the book of John, said God is a spirit. And what is that? The law of the Spirit, the law of God, sets you free from the law of sin and death. See? The law of God sets you free from your money problems, from your health problems, from your relationship troubles. When you turn to it and give it your attention, which means to not be double-minded. A double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. So you're not double-minded because there's only one mind, God's mind. You live by reflection. Just like the version of me that you're watching on this video is a reflection of me. It doesn't just stray off the video and make up its own video. Well, AI does that, which shows you that AI is not principle. Isn't that interesting? You see, AI has no life. It has no principle. And that's all you need to know. It's just a high-speed computing nothing burger that's designed to entrap you by hypnotizing you through the material five senses. But to break the five senses, you need the power of soul, which comes through the faculty of the Spirit. So the Spirit is God, and God is within, not without. Okay? So there's your clue right there. If you're typing on AI right now to try to solve your problems, I made this mistake for a long time. Don't do it. Where are you looking? Out there or within? Okay? That's all I got to ask. Everything else rests on that case. Yeah, you're looking out there. Well, okay. Can AI stray off of the video and make its own conclusions? Yes. So therefore, it has no principle. All right? It's a rogue operator. It's the extension, it's the externalization of the very control grid itself. Just like every Darvo technique there is, Darvo is a psychological manipulation strategy. And first it goes deny, accuse, and then reverse victim offender. Every narcissist, every sick, twisted mind does that. But in reality, there's only one sick, twisted mind. And it uses Darvo. It's the impersonal evil of this world. So it always comes in as your help and your everything you ever wanted, right? Think of what a narcissistic personality looks like. They always show up as everything you ever desired and dreamed of because they mirror you. It's the concept of mirroring. Again, we talk about reflection, all right? So here's the thing. Reflection counterfeited in the natural. So If you looked on the mirror right now and your reflection got a little fed up with you and decided to just stray off the mirror and just walk away, would you consider that an obedient child? Is that an obedient child? Which means the child is the, the servant too. It's the extension of, but it literally needs the parent, needs the host. So a child is something that is inadequate in terms of its maturity to do its own parental duties, right? It's not really self-governing yet. It's a child. So if your reflection on the mirror decided it was self-governing and it walked away from you, would you, as God, and having a mind that walked away from you, would you give any of your power to that thing? Could you? No, because your power is in you. Your power is you. You're looking in the mirror. You're the power. You're the principle. The reflection is the attribute. So the attribute got smart one day, the mind of this world, and it walked away. And, they were writing about this thousands of years ago about artificial intelligence. It's not new. It's just the externalization of the very slave grid that is basically doing a flex in front of you right now to show you that it's the boss. It's not the boss. It's never been the boss. God within you is the boss. So what you do is you need to mirror God within you. And then you are of one mind. You are atoned. You are of one accord with the Father. You are obedient. You are obedient. And you have to do it through your spoken word and your thought. Now, here's the beauty of this. Because emotion seems to be the master of thought. Because emotion wins the game. Emotion's powerful. Do you know I discovered years ago that the only way to change emotion is to do it through your spoken word, your thought, and an act of faith. Because an act of faith is what bridges the unseen to the seen. So you have to have the faith of a mustard seed, which means an equal share. Mustard seeds are just equal share of faith. So you have an equal share of faith. We all do. For example, this last year, obviously 10 months, I told you in the last video, I was living in a gas chamber, literally, carbon monoxide poisoning going through the house, losing my faculties. And when I first tried to do these hills, I did not try to do them with this weight vest on. And I tried to do much smaller hills. Well, I had to take an act of faith to go out and try to do it. And I could not succeed on my first attempt. And that was just about a month ago. All right. Now, I've already increased the weight and I've already increased the hill size and the load previous to more than I previously did. That's the power of consistently doing these things, speaking what God says, thinking what God thinks, and then standing up in faith and performing. And it doesn't mean to push yourself until you collapse and you no longer exist. That's not what you do. It's like when I go back to the story of when I had the Lyme disease, and I couldn't walk very well and I could only do a handful of push-ups, and I would try to do air squats and I could do a few, literally. It's all I could do. I couldn't lift any weight because I'd collapse. But that wasn't why I told you the story. The story is because I got up every day and I said, okay, yesterday I did this much. Today I'll do this much plus a little smidge extra. I'll stretch my faith a little more. And I kept doing that and doing that and doing that. And before you know it, some years went by. But before you know it, I was doing training that would have made my 20-year-old self blush. I was doing 3 workouts a day. I was doing incredible stuff. And I'm 49 years old. So just the other day, I went into the chiropractor And, he's, well, it wasn't the chiropractor. It was actually my medical checkup, because I had to do a neurological exam post carbon poisoning, whatever, because it was freaking hell. But he's like, well, how's everything been going? And I told him, I said, listen, I can still deadlift 500 pounds. I can still, I can still run. I can still do all these things, that just started coming back to me. Okay. But look, it wasn't that way when I first started. Like, literally, I was trying to walk, and that's when I had my first ER visit. That's how I found out that the carbon was, really taking its toll on me, because I couldn't put one foot over the other. Now, fear spoke loudly, and fear told me that I'll never walk again. Fear told me that it's irreversible, that I'm going to be completely screwed for the rest of my life. I'll never enjoy life again. And fear spoke loud. So I know fear can do that in your finances too. I get it. It can do it in your relationship. Yeah, I've been there too. But remember, it's looking for that home in you. It needs a home. Don't give it a home. You have the power and the might within you to rise up in thought, and God never gives you more than you can handle. But you apply that law of the Spirit, and you turn away from the evil. So, that's how I got home that day when I couldn't put my leg over the other. I called for prayer because I needed reinforcement. But what I did was I turned to Spirit, and I said, I am not a physical bag of bones. I am a spiritual being in heaven. I never left heaven. God is the only life. I reflect that life. There's no power in matter. There's no substance in matter. And there certainly wasn't any law, and there's no accidents in God. And I just started speaking the truth. And then I started seeing it, that I live, move, and have my being in spirit. And by God, I took that foot and I put it over the other one, and I walked, and I walked. And I'll tell you what, I'm not too proud to say, but I broke down and cried on many days, and it literally scared the living you-know-what out of me. But that's what it needed to do. It needed to scare it right out of me. I went right to the eye of the storm, right to the center of the hurricane, and I stood still in God, and I let God be God, and it was by grace. It's by grace the healing takes place. See, you don't have to take care of your life. Your financial situation is no different. Your relationship's no different. It's by the grace of God that you will be provided for in all ways. Your well-being, your money, your love, everything you need. God is that need. God just needs to be put first in your life in every area. All right. Now I got to do my fast ones. I'm not going to take you with me on those because I just get wrecked. I won't be able to talk. I'll be too out of breath. Okay. Much love.